It's thinking. Yes. Okay, I think we're good to go. Like, do you want to see? Let's see. No. Maybe. All right. We're ready to go.
Nothing to see. Nothing to see.
They can, people can see and
They can see in there, so we can start. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna get started. We apologize for the delay. We found that we could equipment and we appreciate the AV staff going to great lengths in order to try to get to work. So I'm gonna welcome everyone and call to order the October 14th, 2024 City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
Amara.
Present.
Holmes. Sierra Sammons. Mayor Riddell Harris.
Here, thank you very much. Councilman Holmes, would you please lead us in the pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to the mayor's commendations, proclamations, and acknowledgements. First on the list is Firefighter Burn Institute community donation presentation with the Auburn Hook and Ladder and Hook and Ladder number 1. We have Engineer Hooten, who's going to be presenting that.
You're good at that. Oh.
Hello, everyone. As you know, my name is Dalton Hooten, and this year we had the opportunity to raise money for the Firefighter Burn Institute. Huge thank you to them and all the folks who supported us. I'd like to thank folks at M2M Properties for letting us use space at the Auburn Town Center, the Hook and Ladder Company #1 for providing us with all the equipment and personnel, the Auburn Firefighters Local 4110, Starbucks Coffee for the generous donations and keeping us energized and hydrated. And we greatly support the community who has provided us with helping raise money. I'd like to introduce Joe Pick from the Firefighter Burn Institute. He can speak towards a little bit to everything they do and what's going on.
It's a friend for Bolo.
As he said, my name is Joe Pick. I'm the executive director of the Firefighters Burn Institute, retired fire captain. This is Boots. Everybody else doesn't care about me. This is Boots. Boots is the therapy dog for our burn survivors. He goes to our camps. He'll be going into Shriners. Goes to the programs that we do for our burn survivors. Before I get into the actual amount of what I'm here to thank the Auburn Fire Department and this community for their support at the Firefighters Burn Institute. And make sure that the firefighters know that any burn that they have, the resources that we have available for them to get a clinic appointment, even on smaller burns with firefighters, because of the nature of the job that we do can be detrimental if it's not dealt with. But what I want the community to know is we serve burn survivors throughout this region and well beyond, in Nevada, Oregon, and if there's a burn survivor in your community, whether it was a burn yesterday, last week, last year, 10 years ago, there's programs that we have for young adults, for kids, for families. In 3 weeks, we're doing our family camp, which is specifically for burn survivors under 6 years old. And their entire families, the siblings, and the parents, and everybody kind of gets their own session of learning about what they got to go through. So that's what I want the community to know, that this is where this money's going to. I would like to thank Engineer Hooten and Matt Powers, who is the co-coordinator for this. Auburn City, and with a grand total of about $80,000 over that time. Okay? We couldn't do the programs that we do without the support of our communities and specifically our fire departments. So on behalf of the Firefighters Burn Institute, I would like to present Auburn City Fire Department with a plaque and thank you. And if you have some people you'd like to bring up.
Yes, I'd like to bring up her view from the Auburn Ladder Company #1. Who has gave us the opportunity to be able to match the amount of money with our union to be able to bring that total we raised. So total, we're donating $5,000 from what we had was originally of just over $3,000. So
Review, thank you very much. Absolutely. Thank you. Do this out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we can get a picture. Bring boots.
of course. Where are we at?
Yeah, pick a good one. Pick one.
Okay, now look over here. Thank you.
This is amazing what you've done. So let's give everyone a big round of applause.
Going to give a shout out to Hook and Ladder as well. I'm a part of Pioneers Hook and Ladder in Sacramento. And what these gentlemen do is represent the traditions of the fire service that these younger men, younger than me at least, are carrying on. And so thank you. Thank you for what you guys do.
We're very fortunate to have such an active Hook and Ladder. Auburn Hook and Ladder #1 has just done tremendous work in our community. And so thank you. And thank you to our current firefighters and to the Burn Institute for all that you do to serve those that suffer in injury. So thank you so very much. And thanks for bringing boots.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is the proclamation for breast cancer awareness. Councilman Dunn, I feel like
I'm up, yes. Whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, observed annually in October, is a nationwide campaign to increase public awareness of breast cancer, educate the public about early detection and regular screenings, and promote research for better treatments and a cure. And
whereas breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer among women, and while a family history of breast cancer is a risk factor, the overwhelming majority of women diagnosed with breast cancer have no family history of the disease. And
whereas breast cancer may be diagnosed with women and less frequently men of all ages, ethnicities, and socioeconomic backgrounds, making it imperative that early detection and heightened awareness remain central to our efforts in combating this disease. And
whereas although some progress has been made in the fight to combat breast cancer, the battle for cure is far from over, and there's still a great need for widespread outreach, increased awareness, and accessible resources for all. And whereas we support those courageously fighting breast cancer and honor the lives lost to the disease. And
whereas the city of Auburn proudly joined communities nationwide this October to celebrate breast cancer survivors, supports those currently battling the disease, honor the many lives lost, recognize the families affected, and admire the medical professionals and researchers dedicated to aiding those with breast cancer and striving for a cure. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Rachel Riddell Harris, Mayor of the City of Auburn, on behalf of the City Council, hereby proclaim October 2024 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and urge citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with issues involved with breast cancer awareness. All right. I know a lot of us have at least been touched in some way by breast cancer, so I think that's a very important thing that we're all conscious of and making sure that we're all getting screens.
Mhm.
Okay, since today is Indigenous Peoples' Day, we're also doing a proclamation for Indigenous Peoples' Day, so, Councilman Delafield.
All right. Whereas our community is home to many Native people from across the country, it is essential to recognize this day as a remembrance of their ancestors and the significant contributions that Native Americans have made. And
Whereas their traditions have inspired the principles of self-governance and determination, which form the foundation of our nation today. And whereas Indigenous peoples have greatly enriched America's cultural landscape with their music, language, arts, agriculture, and medicinal practices. And
Whereas the city of Auburn is located on the ancestral lands of the Nisenan and Maidu people who have lived here for generations. Despite great hardships such as slavery, starvation, disease, and broken treaty, Nisenan and Maidu people continue to thrive and contribute to the city's economic and cultural development. And
Whereas, although we cannot undo the past, we must acknowledge the suffering experienced by so many throughout history. This is why we, along with other cities, publicly recognize the original peoples of this land and seek to foster a deeper and more accurate understanding of their history. And
Whereas it is important to honor the rich history, vibrant cultures, and enduring resilience of America's first peoples by recognizing their contributions and sacrifices as the original inhabitants of this country, we must ensure future generations understand that Native Americans are valued and an integral part of our community. Now, therefore, I, Rachel Harris, Mayor of the City of Auburn, on behalf of the City Council, do proclaim October 14th, 2024 as Indigenous Peoples' Day. City of Auburn. Okay, that's it for our combination proclamations. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda. This is the time set aside for the council members and or the public to ask for the removal, postponement, or change of the listed sequence on the agenda items. The agenda will be approved by consensus of the council. Are there any members of the council that wish to change the agenda? Any members of the public that wish to change the order of the agenda? Okay, seeing none, without objection, the agenda has been adopted. Moving on to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless persons request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the motion to approve the consent calendar. Are there any requests from the council to remove items from the consent calendar?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to remove item 3. Yes.
Any other items? Okay. Are there any members of the public that would wish to remove any other items from the consent calendar? Okay. Seeing none, then we're going to go to, is there any public comment on the items that are remaining on the consent calendar? Okay. I'm going to move to approve the consent calendar as amended, removing item number 3.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dalton Covey.
Aye.
Amara.
yes,
Holmes. Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Del Harris.
Hi, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 3, the Youth Advisory Committee revisions and membership appointments. I'll take this one since I'm the one leading the youth commission. So we had some great applicants that applied to be on the Youth Advisory Committee. And we weren't sure if we'd get 5 youth, and we ended up getting more than 5 youth that wanted to be on part of it. And they all had such good applications that I wanted to bring them all on. So that's why we're asking to increase the number of applicants or members of the Youth Commission. We got 3 great adult members as well that applied. So I'm really excited. I think that having more, at least this year, will be helpful because we're really starting it up and really developing the scope and what the committee is going to be doing and getting a better sense of kind of how we're going to move forward. So having more help, I think, would be beneficial. There were some questions brought up about having a quorum And I think the nice thing about the youth commission is there's not a lot of things that'll be voted on, so if we don't have a quorum every month, I don't think it'll be a big issue, but. So that's where that stands.
I'd like to weigh in on that. Yeah, I think that's fabulous, and I agree, the more the better. And at this age, I think it's such a great opportunity, and it's important for these kids, and I think that for them to, be a part of that will be a wonderful learning experience, and that's what we need to do.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just removed this item from the consent agenda just for the opportunity to speak to it briefly. Very excited to see these young folks that are eager to provide assistance to the city with, weighing in on issues and concerns of our youth. I just, for the purposes of the record and make sure our those that are here are aware that as you're defining your scope, which is will be one of the first assignments of the commission, that once you have that defined, that will actually come back to us as a city council for adoption, so that it's consistent with the scope development for all of our committees and commissions. So right now, the enabling ordinance is pretty broad, and it's done that way on purpose. So we'll look forward to the work that the Youth Commission does this year and seeing what the scope comes up with. So just again, for the purposes of the record and making sure that everyone was clear that this council will have to adopt that. So thank you.
Are there any other? Yes.
Well, I know that there is a member of the city council.
Ms.
That's me. We. Yeah. So we had selected that I would be, I think at the last meeting, that I would be the chair of the youth commission during our last meeting. Is that not do that? I don't remember.
If we didn't, we can always make it part of the motion.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just.
I don't think we did.
I think we because I was putting the youth commission together, but I don't know if we actually, so we can amend it to.
We'll just confirm.
Or if we can't, we can put it in another meeting on consent to the next meeting.
Yes, I recall the consensus at the last meeting is that you would be the chair, but that it would be put on the annual consider done. So when
Okay.
the entire sheet comes forward, that would be agendas for that.
Okay.
So in January.
Okay. Sounds good.
We had a youth advisory commission in the past. And I wonder if anybody has gone through that to review what they did and why it was discontinued.
It was the way that it was created was it wasn't discontinued, it had to be renewed every year, and if you didn't choose to renew it, then it would drop off. So I think it was just one of those things that didn't get renewed versus it being actively discontinued. So
What I'm suggesting is that if we have a record of these past meetings, whether we should review those to see whether there's some
we can see.
success in the earlier.
I think that's actually a
that's
really
something-
good point, especially with youth, you don't want to put them off, so I think that's an excellent point. See where there was the success, see where it kind of dropped off, and that's an excellent point.
Maybe that's something we could do in the beginning and kind of try to see if we can pull that up, take a look at that.
Do some historical research. And I think
Maybe the meetings were too long.
I honestly, what I believe what had happened was that there was a lot of staff time that was needed to run the commission, and it just became unfeasible for staff. There's an economic downturn and things changed, and there just wasn't. I believe that had something to do with the reason why it was not renewed. It was just a lot of staff. And in this instance, the youth commission has been reconfigured so that we have adults on the youth commission in addition to the kids. And the mayor has volunteered to serve as the quote unquote, a liaison, because there are agendas and minutes and things of that nature that need to be developed. And so we wanted to make sure that our staff didn't have that responsibility, given that all that they're having to deal with the financial crises. So our mayor has stepped up and agreed to help. And then we've got appointing the other adults to help in that endeavor. So.
But I do think that that's still a good point.
Absolutely.
Look at the path and see.
Yeah, we looked at all the creating documents, we haven't looked at meetings. So it's big.
And I would like to say congratulations to, I have to name them. Lewis, Graham, Elliott, Stafford, Asher Thompson, Sora Lasco, Wes Simmons, Henry Poole, and the adults, Sarah Liebert, if I say Liebert, sorry, Liebert, Jamie Ross, Mark Bruner, and other students, Rose Elise, Dominic Grossman, Hannah Liebert, and Cora Galt. Anyway,
I'll learn all their
thank
names
you, all
soon
you kids. that you stepped up.
Yeah, we're excited. It should be fun. And I'm excited that we get to have the youth kind of determine what they're working on, because there's nothing more boring than having a bunch of adults tell you what to do when you're trying to figure out what to do.
As long as it's within our jurisdiction.
Agreed.
That's the only thing. We
We
can't
can't-
fix the schools, kids. You gotta have a youth commission for the schools, so.
Yes, so the fun thing that I'm planning on for the youth commission is kind of going over all of things like the basics of the city, talking through all of the, like what we have control over, what we don't. We're gonna talk about, how you run a meeting, all those kinds of basic things. And then also I'm gonna have the different departments come in and present on what they do. So police, fire, public works, maybe have our legal counsel come in and give the really fun version of legal documents and things like that. So should be a good time.
Have fun though.
Yes. Someone's here.
I just want to add that, as a current chief of advisor at Pleasant High School, a former board trustee, I know a lot of these student names, and I'm so glad that they are stepping up. Joining the commission, I can't wait to see what these young students or young adults will bring to our lives. So, thank you.
Yeah, the other thing I'm going to also encourage is that just because you're not on the youth commission doesn't mean you can't be involved as a youth, that we can have other people come to the meeting.
She's looking at me. I don't know what.
No, I'm just saying,
just
in
kidding.
general, so I think that we could bring in more members of the community too to work on some of these projects, so that would be great.
And more kids.
And more teachers. Okay, is there any other comments on this item? Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council.
I'll move my resolution five, the youth advisory committee membership to 13 members, plus a council member and appoint all applicants.
I'll second
Council member being,
the council. Do we put me in it now? I mean, I'm confused, sorry.
me too.
It says a council member, but it does not note the council member, or do we need to put that?
Yeah, the agenda title is only for the applicants.
Okay,
Oh,
okay, so
okay,
we'll figure that out.
I'll second that, Kim.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Down Kelby.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes. Sarah Sammons.
Hi.
Mayor Del Harris.
Aye, thank you very much. I'm so excited and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone on Thursday at our meeting. And if you don't want to stay for the whole meeting, you don't have to, just so you know. But you're welcome to stay if you'd like. All right, we are done with the consent calendar and we're moving on to public comments. This is a time provided so that the public may speak to the council on any items not on the agenda. Please make your comments brief as possible, not to exceed 3 minutes. The council cannot act on items not included on the agenda. Items may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. I'm going to make the first public comment actually, because I went to the amazing 90th anniversary of the airport, and I just wanted to highlight what a great event that was out at the airport. There were lots of staff out there, and a lot of the public came out. There were some really great speakers. We had Congressman Kiley came out, as well as representation of Congressman Malfa as well, and also Cindy Gustafson, our county supervisor. So we had a great group out there. I wanted to publicly thank Ty Richardson, who did a lot of work putting that together, and Jonathan Wright as well. From our staff, Dallas Drake, Ben Foss, Holly Polito, the Experimental Aviation Association, the Auburn Aviation Association, the Civil Air Patrol. They all did a great job putting this event together, and it really was a great success. So thank you to everyone involved in that. Is there any other things that the council would like to bring up?
Well, we had the Auburn Wine and Food Festival too on Saturday, and I had the opportunity to visit the airport, which it was great, wonderful opportunity to celebrate, and then the Auburn Wine and Food Festival as well. Went well, lots of people enjoying our businesses and our food and wine. So very busy. October is always incredibly busy. There just were a number of events last week, and we've got, of course, the Harvest Festival coming up on Saturday. Auburn Big Powwow is also on Saturday. So
Well, trick or treating before we know it.
yes, trick or treaters. Yeah. So
Thank you.
Can I just take a moment to salute my leadership Auburn class of 2025 members who braved the early morning of Saturday to help with our pancake breakfast. Some of us were there at 4:30 in the morning. I got there at 5:30, left around 3 o'clock. So we've got a lot of members that were there during the day. And a special shout out to Dallas Drake and Corinne Thompson, who also made it back to the festival to serve their treats for we're so honored and happy to be part of it.
Thank you.
I have one other thing.
Yes.
So I was minding my own business about a week ago, and I was in the canyon walking with my husband, and it was early, and all of a sudden I came upon Hal Hall and a TV camera, and they were interviewing Hal, and I don't know if anyone saw it here, it was on channel 31, I think, was that Good Morning, Good Day America,
Yes.
Good Day California. Anyway, so they did a really good broadcast, which I didn't really see, but everybody told me that apparently my husband and I were on TV. But they interviewed Hal, and it was on the Endurance and the Tevis,
yes,
and
Western
so
States Trail.
apparently it was beautiful. But they were right in the canyon, and it was beautiful, and so what an opportunity for Auburn, and so hopefully somebody saw it. Good PR for Auburn. So,
Yeah,
anyway,
Western, I think they were talking about Western States Trail.
Western
Also.
States. Yeah.
Okay, great. Are there any members of the public that would like to make public comment?
Mayor, council members, city staff. My name is Brian Faircloth. My colleagues and I live in Placer County and are volunteers for United Southern Americans, not spokespersons. United Southern Americans is a nationwide nonpartisan organization with thousands of active volunteers in over 20 states. Today, we come to you as concerned citizens, sharing alarming information about our state's voter roll database. Research of the state's voter roll database was done through hundreds of hours of research conducted by highly qualified and credentialed data teams. An analysis of the 2022 election, researched by highly qualified data teams, using only official data provided by California election officials, indicates serious issues with compliance of federal law. We are here to present to you and to the public the results of the aforementioned analysis showing the votes cast, counted, and certified may not all be valid and accurate under the Constitution and the law. We are not here to cast any blame or aspersions on any elected official. We do not suggest any candidates in any race have wrongly won or lost their races, nor do we advocate for returning or rerunning any past election. Tonight, we will present you with a resolution demanding an amendment to the inaccuracy and the uncertainty plaguing our elections, along with a summary of our findings and the laws that apply. Though you bear no direct responsibility for anything in the electoral process, we come to you, our closest elected officials, for support and action. We're asking that you listen to the resolution and take the necessity for valid elections seriously by adding the resolution to your next meeting agenda. Our next three speakers will read the resolution in 3 parts, and our final speaker will conclude. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, my name is Robert Dobbins, and I'm here to read into the record the first portion of the USA resolution. Resolution for a legally valid 2024 general election. Whereas it is a recognized civil right in the United States for every citizen to have a free and fair election. Whereas it is the duty of our election officials to guarantee our elections are accurate and free from distortion or manipulation. Whereas our constitutional system of representative government only works when the following 4 tenets of an election are upheld. Number 1, the voter rolls must be accurate. National Voter Registration Act, 1993. Number 2, Votes counted must be from eligible voters. U.S. Constitution, 14th Amendment, Section 2. Number 3, the number of votes counted must equal the number of voters who voted. Number 4, there can be no more than 1 in 125,000 ballots in error by the voting system. Help America Vote Act, 2002. Whereas the analysis of the California 2022 general election has uncovered evidence of massive inaccuracies that appear to violate both federal and state law, including 5,886,198 ineligible or uncertain registration violations found within the California State Voter Roll Database. 2,776,939 votes cast by ineligible or uncertain registrations. 123,785 more votes counted than voters who voted. No one knows who cast them. 2,776,849 apparent voting violations in excess of the legal standard of system accuracy for a valid federal election. Maximum allowable system errors for the 2022 general election was 90. Certification as defined by law is an attestation of accuracy and compliance. The certification of the 2022 election appears to have been fraudulent and illegal. Thank you.
Mayor, council members. My name is William Trathan, and I am here to read into the record the next section of the USA resolution. Whereas these findings trample legal accuracy requirements of the voting system during a federal election. Whereas the intent of voters must be known factually before certification can be lawfully conducted. Whereas the 2022 general election appears to have been invalid, depriving us of the guaranteed protection of our natural rights under a government duly and provably chosen by us, the American people, resulting in incalculable damage to our families, our way of life, and the fabric of the United States. Therefore, we call upon our representatives to provide relief to the people and the assurance of domestic tranquility by joining us in demanding a valid 2024 general election that upholds these existing laws and equitable principles of law. Number 1, proof of citizenship, identity and eligibility required to register and vote, non-anonymous attestation, or not anonymous attestation, excuse me. Voter rolls certified, accurate, and available for public review and challenge 30 days before the start of the early voting. Voters added after that date must bring proof of citizenship, identity, and address in person to a qualified and official at each place. 3, hand-marked secure ballots similar to currency, where imaging technology is used for tabulation. The security features must be verifiable in the ballot image. 4, systems, machines, security measures, infrastructure, and conduct are required to be compliant with federal law for fraud prevention regarding risk assessment, certification, testing, and implementation. Adjudication must be signed off by party, candidate, and trained citizen witnesses after being given full and effective observation rates. Candidates and trained citizens must be allowed immediate access to ballots, ballot images, cast vote records. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Laura Burns. I'm here to read into the record the last section of the United Sovereign American Resolution. Number 6, ballots, regardless of the entry source, election operations and systems must maintain end-to-end chain of custody from voter to vote count to final canvass, including auditability and witness transfer with paper records. Number 7, a National Institute of Standards and Technology compliant, randomized, statistically valid end-to-end audit with 95% confidence level of all elections pursuant to the 14th Amendment, Section 2 must be performed. These audits are to be conducted by or financial auditors, not personnel from within the election system. Reconciliation will include the vote count, real physical ballots, adjudication, cast vote records, ballot count, qualified voter count, custody transfer, and all other paper and electronic election systems, including logs. Number 8, if the total of unique variances mentioned here this evening is more than 10% of the margin of victory, a new election must be held in the state for those candidates affected. Unless the issues can be provably corrected by a manual hand recount with a full review of records. Number 9, waiver of requirements is not allowed. Only end-to-end system compliance from registration through certification can guarantee the intent of the people is accurately recorded. Be it resolved that the Auburn City Council members stand in support with the concerns and remedies presented here. We implore the Placer County Board of Supervisors, California Legislature, federal legislatures, law enforcement, federal and state prosecutors, judges, and both California Secretary of State and County Registers of Voters to cooperate and fulfill these firm requests of the people.
Mayor, council members, my name is Adrienne Ewell, and I am here to conclude our presentation. What you have heard is a powerful written resolution outlining massive inaccuracies in our 2022 election. From registration through certification, the resolution delineates meaningful remedies that will proactively protect the validity of our 2024 general election for all Americans. Your written copy cites many U.S. Supreme Court precedents and federal and constitutional mandates that support the need for such actions. Large numbers of Californians have questions about the trustworthiness of our elections. Official data show these concerns are valid, and the law says resolving them is essential in securing our liberty. The cost for not fixing the enumerated problems is immeasurable. So we urge you to put this resolution on the agenda for the next City Council meeting, where you can vote to join us in support for fair, honest, and valid elections. The United Sovereign Americans website showcases our initiatives nationwide and features some extremely informative election videos. We encourage you to visit uniteforfreedom.com and learn more about our nonpartisan organization and our goal to restore valid elections throughout our country. That's unite, the number 4, freedom.com. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for your comment. Yes, you can bring that up to the clerk.
There's one for each and the clerk.
Thank you.
And the cover letter signed by me. If you got any questions, you can contact me.
Thank you very much. Okay. Are there any other public comments for this evening? Come on.
Good evening, council members, Ms. Mayor. My name is Jeff Urkel. I just recently purchased
an airplane. I enjoyed the fair out here, as did you that day. And we made an effort to make some adjustments to the lease that we have with the city. And at the time that we submitted the adjustments we wanted to have made, we submitted those adjustments to the city airport manager. At which time he advised me that it would be costly and that it required a $3,000 deposit for the city to go through the work. Mr. Housley and myself, Mr. Housley was the seller of the hangar, and I was the purchaser. Mr. Housley and I both put up this money for $3,000. To date, we cannot find out where that money was spent. To date, we have contacted Mr. Wright, and Mr. Wright's response to me was, the city isn't obligated to disclose certain documents. Under the California Public Records Act, if you want to pay the city attorney to generate an explanation, that's up to you. Now, this is money we put up. It's not your money. It wasn't the city's money. It's our money. Do we have a right to know where our money was spent? So, Mr. Richardson, nice guy, he said, I can get accounting together from legal that I can share, but be advised, we're gonna bill you for the time to let you know where your money. Please don't do me any more favors. So I said to Mr. Wright, I said, would you please cite what you're referring to, that you have no obligation to share information with us? Please tell me the authority that you're using to tell me you cannot share information with me. I never heard from him, but for obvious reasons. Then I got another letter from Mr. Richardson, who was the nicest guy. He said, regarding attorney billing, maintaining attorney-client privilege means that the detailed billing cannot be released, even with redactions of where my money went. The creation of a bill that is suitable for that additional work will require additional fees on your behalf. Thanks very much for hearing me. I expect some kind of resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, can you follow on that issue? Okay, are there any more public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our council business. The first item of business is a resolution of the city council directing the city manager to increase labor costs. City manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So worked here for a year and a couple of months, and this is the first time I've actually done a presentation for you, which is kind of strange. We did them like constantly in the previous city, but so our city clerk has pulled up the our so we've gone through and discussed the budget issues that the city has for several times. Several beginning all the way back in March of 2024, earlier this year, identifying a structural deficit that the city has found itself in. Going through additional work between March and the adoption of the 24-25 budget in the end of June, we've identified that the structural deficit actually started occurring back in 22-23, but for various reasons it wasn't daylighted until about March of 2024. So that's sort of setting the stage of where we're at right now with this issue that we're bringing for you. So brief background, I gave a little bit of this earlier. March through June of 2024, we're under the budget development, bringing that to council and council where we're at. In June of 2024, we adopted the current fiscal year budget that had an estimated general fund deficit of 0.75 million. We adopted that budget with a using reserves, so we have a balanced budget using reserves and using different cuts that we have looked at, including hiring freeze that I'll show you and use a little of that from beginning of July 1st. September 23rd of this year, we give another update to council. We're continuing to do these quarterly budget updates to council, showing an estimated general fund deficit of 1.5 million. And I had a conversation with one of our council members this afternoon, and the question was, why is it an estimated deficit? And the reason it's estimated is because we don't actually know until the audit is done what the final deficit is. So using our fiscal reserves, reallocating some of the ARPA money, the total deficit that we have, if you look at that, it's actually zero. We don't have a zero. We don't have a deficit budget this year because we balanced it using reserves, using ARPA money. However, if you back out those dollars, we're out of the $5 million deficit. Our finance director is here, and so if I go sideways, go right better shoe or something. This is the ongoing graph that you're probably pretty familiar with, showing where our structural deficit showed up. So as you can see, this line right here, that's our reserve amount. So you can see this big dip. 1920, we actually had revenue above expenditures, same for 2020 and 21. 21, 22 is the same. You can see those surpluses at the end of the year, $2.1 million surplus at the end of 21, 22. And then you can see the precipitous drop, right? This line right here, where the expenditures outpace the revenue to the point of 1.175. You can see this dip of reserves. The only way to balance that negative number out is just reserves, because, as I said, we didn't see that deficit pop up until the end of the fiscal, until the end of the audit was actually finished up about a year later. 23-24 preliminary number show $1.5 million deficit. This is where we're sitting at right now. Like I said, we have a balanced budget because we used reserves and ARPA money to balance that out. You can see that we had a slight increase on our reserve amount, but still that's not meeting the city's policy for total reserve where we want to be. When you look at the forecasting and moving things out, you can see this continual growth of expenditures outpacing revenue, right? So 800,000, 874, and ongoing. Back to 21, 22, 20, 21. Somewhere in here, and I don't remember the exact year, as the when we adopted the third month. So that helped decrease our total personnel expenditure. That's one of the other reasons why we had the high surplus right there. So you can see this graph shows our salary and benefit costs increasing. So this is continue to grow out. This right here shows the total for the drop in personnel costs because of the growth that we've had. So we've cut about roughly $300,000 out of our operating budget using the hiring freeze. So we're not backfilling vacant positions unless those positions are critical for the ongoing continuity of government, right? It's a position that we don't need to fill. We're not filling it. We've done as much cutting on the actual operating budgets as we can to all the departments, cutting back as much as we can to the point where some of those cuts are frankly not sustainable. We need to look at increases in revenue and further decreases in other areas, which is what we're bringing here tonight. You can see that while we had this drop here in 24, 25 with a little bit of savings, then also the hiring freeze, that red arrow is personnel costs continue to creep up. So if you go back to this, you can see that between 2016 and now, this actually starts in 2019, but 2016 and now we've got a 50% increase in our personnel costs in just 8 years. And one of the things I tell folks when I'm talking about this is that all of those increases in personnel costs that we've had, hiring new personnel, compensation increases, all of those were needed expenses, right? We needed the staff to be hired when we needed them, and frankly, we still need them now. The compensation increase that we approved, that council approved, those needed to be done because we were continually losing staff because our compensation was too low. The unfortunate thing is that we just simply didn't have ongoing revenue and resources to pay for those increases. We didn't see that because audit was delayed because of the erroneous budget assumptions that were built in from the beginning that council was delivered. So the bottom line is that the city grew too much, too quickly, and outpaced our revenue sources to get where we're at right now. And of course, as I say, we need to address that as soon as possible. If the city continues using our reserve amount as we're doing, we would burn through all of that reserve amount in probably about 4 years. This is the same kind of a chart, but in a different format, so you can see the actual increase on this kind of a like median line. I mean, you can see this increase ongoing all the way up. This goes up out through 2029-30. This doesn't include replacing any of the frozen staff that we have. So this is existing personnel costs continuing on, extrapolated out over the next 5 or so years. And so we talked about this before, and council's given direction to staff that we need to address their deficit. And as I said, we've made the cuts that we can make in the different departments that we can, to the point where some of those are likely sustainable in the long term. The only way that we can work our way out of this deficit is to look at cutting staff, because as I said, if we've had a 50% personnel cost increase from 2016 to now, that leads us to the decision that we're at. This bright red line here shows you, starts in 2021-22, everything above 2020-2021, slight increases, not very much, but actually a decrease here in 2020 and 2021. That's because of the PERS bond, so the overall PERS cost dropped because of that bond, which was frankly to save the city a substantial amount of money. PERS though cannot figure out how to do its investment, so we're have a PERS payment this year, although we thought that we wouldn't have to do that for 10 years or something. So you can see this big bump here, right? So 2021-22, we added 20% personnel costs, and then we added 7%, and we added 18%. Right here on the 24-25 budget, we dropped by 2%. This is the new frozen, so this is the frozen positions dropping another 3%. If the city doesn't do anything for fiscal year 25-26, no raises, anything else, we'll see a 2% increase that puts us back into a deficit of about $565,000. If the council authorizes and adopts the resolution that we have before you to decrease overall personnel costs by about 10%, that's this 25-26 reduction line. That takes us next year to a positive of $435,000, and then you can see it's positive all the way through. If we don't adopt the personnel decrease, these are the deficits that we'll see. It shows the ongoing costs, personnel costs. As I said, this is 425 flat with 0. If you're looking at the frozen positions that we have added into the ongoing personnel increased costs, this is what our deficit would be. So you can see the negatives, yellow or the orange is outpacing the blue pretty substantially there. With the 10% drop that the resolution that you have before you proposes, this is what that looks like. This is only personnel costs. So you can see our surplus stabilizes, our reserve stabilized. We don't have it dropping anymore as we did before down here. And then you've got personnel costs stabilized as well. Slight increases or the typical merit increases, and et cetera, et cetera. So
Is that without raises?
It's Michael said, like, this includes no raises, right? Okay. So staff's recommended action in your packet tonight is to adopt the resolution that's attached to the staff report. That resolution directs me to reduce personnel expenses by 10% or 1.5 million, whichever is greater, by the end of this fiscal year.
1.1.
1.15.
1.15. They said 1.5. I know 1.15. Thank you. That would bring the general fund back into balance with a small surplus, and then it provides future flexibility for us to figure out the annual operating cuts that we can actually live with, be able to get some other things done, and also make sure to treat employees who are here as good as we can treat them, considering the fiscal situation that we're in. But we need to address both of those things. We're also looking, and talked about in the past, previously we're looking at additional revenue sources. So we have the TOT measure that's coming on November, Measure F, that would produce about $162,000 of new revenue. If that measure goes forward, we're looking at things like the cannabis process that we're continuing to look for how we're going to bring that to council and get that work through. Frankly, we need to look at increasing our economic development, and we're getting busy and working on that. One of the things that the economic development director, community development director has done is released an RFP for hotel, basically to do a study to show that I can hand to the hotel operator to say, we have these sites in the city that are good places to put a hotel, this is the potential revenue you would get, this is the number of beds that you can have, all that stuff packaged up in a bow to give to a developer to build new hotels in the city, because that TOT tax, keep 100% of whatever that percentage is, as opposed to property tax, and sales tax, we don't get as much of it.
What's the status of that, Sean? That RFP? Because I know that it was released, but what is
It was
it?
released, we've gotten five responses back. We're bringing it back next council meeting for approval. It's under my spending authority, so we're signing a contract within the next couple of weeks.
Good.
The service agreement back and forth right now.
Okay.
The RFP responses were like super widespread. So one of them, the low was like $10,000, and it was like $350,000.
Oh my God.
So we're picking sort of on the lower side, not the lowest, close to the lowest, but a company that is very well known throughout the state for doing these kind of hotel studies. And I believe that they did the previous one here. Yeah. So it's kind of an updated refresh of the older version that we have.
Okay.
Can I answer any other question?
Thank you for your presentation. Councilman Donovan.
I don't have questions, but I certainly have comments, so I'll reserve the comments. Would you like
We'll do
before that?
questions first.
Okay, thank you.
My only question is, I think the biggest part of our budget, or the largest component of our budget, is personnel.
Yep.
And that's, if I recall, 60%.
Tricia says yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councilman, Sarah Simmons? Councilman Holmes? Okay, I had two quick questions. One was exactly the same, like the percentages. That's why
60%.
it controls the budget so much, and why it's such a big impact. Labor cost. The other one was, when you're looking at those surpluses, does that also include, like, we made some significant cuts to bring down the deficit this year. Does that put us back to normal and have a surplus, or is that still a significant, like, not business as usual, but because when you're planning out your budget, you can either go to what you have done in the past or the lower version that we probably did this year.
Right.
Does that include the business as usual case, or is that with bare bones and everyone cutting everything out of their budget?
So that is status quo moving forward. So not putting back any of the cuts that we put back into the departments, leaving it status quo. And then during the budget process for 25-26, we'll start looking at that to see what we can do and what we can.
Okay.
But we're also working through getting more updated information from our sales tax consultant, property taxes, figuring out what that increase is going to be. So at this point in October, it's too early to look forward that far out on what the new revenue sources are going to be. This is basically small increases on the revenue side, keeping expenditures basically flat on what they are, including things like merit increases and that kind of stuff. But no actual negotiated raises through the employee bargaining units.
And then we have CIP things that we need to get done that aren't necessarily part of any that would need to come out of the general fund. Is the CIP included in that, or would that be in addition to?
CIP is included as far as much as we can get, that's not in the general fund.
Okay.
So things like street improvements that are already being paid for through the road fund, the gas tax fund, the small contribution from the general fund that we put in each year, that's all considered in continuing forward. Sewer and, all of the sewer stuff is continuing to move forward. But in terms of general fund, new projects, that's.
So everything is taken out of general fund that we
Yeah,
can't.
and that's what I'm talking about, where these stuff are basically unsustainable, because sooner or later, the paving that we're doing, the I think it's about $800,000 a year is what we did this year. If we continue that on, that's better than nothing. Thankfully, we did a lot in fiscal year 3 at the beginning of the year. We did quite a bit of road, so we're not in a super deficit situation on the road paving. We certainly have roads that need to be paved, and so there's no general contribution towards into that.
Okay, so we've cut everything we can, and then we still have that modest amount of room at that point.
Yeah.
So probably as we need to actually do things in the city, that will actually decrease over time.
Right.
Okay.
Which is the reason why we need to cut a little bit more than what we, right? If we cut exactly the amount to get to zero, then we'll never be able to, we're going to constantly be in a deficit situation year to year, because we're in the business of doing things as a city, right? We're not in the business of sitting on money, not doing anything with it. So protecting reserves as much as we can protect, because we need to do that, but then also being more conservative with how we're spending money. Any new position that, any vacant position that we're actually going to recruit for comes to me, to Greg. There's a HR, finance, and then to me. So 3 people are signing off on those recruitments before we do them. So we're being much more judicious and careful about how we're spending money that appears that we did before.
Yes.
Before Gretchen got here as well.
One of the other challenges that we've had is hiring people on grants. Are we changing our policy on?
I have a philosophical problem of hiring full-time staff on a grant that we know is going to run out of money eventually, unless those positions are hiring the knowledge that they're limited term, and when the grant goes away, the position goes away.
Yeah.
So if there's a way to do that, and we get a grant that is a 4-year grant for whatever the personnel is, as part of the offer of employment for that person, there's a term for that employment. So they know that if they come to work under that grant project, then they will be employed at the end of the grant.
I've done that. The cities have done a limited term on grants. Okay, thank you very much. That's the only questions that I had. Then do you want to do public comment and then we use our comments? Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for comments. Councilwoman Dunn,
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sean, for bringing this item to the council. This is always a very difficult conversation to have. We heard that our labor costs are 60% of our budget. It's a significant amount. And, we aren't a city without our staff, and we very much value our staff, hardworking men and women that are working hard for our citizens and our businesses. And it's incredibly unfortunate that we are in the situation that we are. We've talked about this ad nauseum, having incorrect data when we're looking at the financial projections for revenues. Also, when we did our PERS unfunded liability, the bond, we anticipated having that $850,000 savings for 10 plus years. We realized it for about 2 years. And we're back having to pay those costs as well, which is outside of our jurisdiction. We don't control CalPERS and their investments. And so just, again, we had several different factors. We did do a compensation classification study. Actually, it was a salary compensation study that found us woefully behind with several of our salary schedules. In some instances, 80% below. And so we were having a difficult time retaining staff, and so we did approve salary increases so that we could retain staff. We were a revolving door with some departments. And again, we were basing this information based on data that we had. And so I appreciate that now we're in a very difficult situation. I'm hoping that through attrition, we can achieve a lot of these savings. not to say that I want to lose staff, but we are in that situation. We are where we are at this point in time. And it is prudent upon us as a council to actually, Mr. City Manager, it's your decision to make those cuts. We only hire and fire you and approve the contract of our attorney. But we can certainly, in this instance, direct you to achieve these savings. So I do appreciate that you're bringing this before us so that we can make that very difficult decision. I am hopeful that in the years to come, with aggressive economic development, annexation that happens in a smart way, that we will be able to build our staff to provide those excellent services. But I certainly don't want to see that building until we have that sustainable revenue, because that's really what's key. I know that this council has eagle eyes on our budget and our staff as well. And so I appreciate that as well. So I am supportive of the resolution today, and I thank you again for bringing this. It is a very difficult decision. I mean, a very difficult situation that we're in, and we do appreciate the challenges that you're faced with. Thank you.
I just kind of piggyback on that quickly. So I've said this before in different areas, places, but when I was hired here in June of last year, I was told that the city had a $400,000 surplus that fiscal year, and then in perpetuity, basically, for as long as the model ran out, we had a $750,000 surplus. So to go from that to where we are now with a $1.5 million deficit, and I've said this before, it's important to have people who know they're doing the positions that they're put in. And this first thing, we were anticipating, you said, saving about $800,000. This year's first payment, I think, is about $325,000 or $350,000. So that ongoing $800,000 savings that was going to run for 10 years or so evaporated in about 2 years and actually went upside down. So it's been a learning experience for sure for me, having the right people here, having Gretchen, thankfully, take the reins what she did to get it back on track, has been really important. And but certainly none of this has been what I anticipated or been fun at all. So
it's not easy, and I also appreciate that we do have different staff. We've made significant changes in our finance department. We've also brought in some additional procedures and software programs to help with budget and making sure there's better accountability so that we never find ourselves in this position again. And so I do appreciate those measures as well. We do have, like I said, the software and so forth. And we're going to look forward. Thank you.
Yes, well, it's, you know, here we are today. I really never thought we'd have to do something about it. We can't close our eyes to this. And I appreciate the aggressive approach we're taking. We have to do something. As we sit here, it'll only get worse, as you showed us. So I also appreciate what we've learned from this. I think you outlined that very well, and we're looking forward. I appreciate that I think a lot of us here are in agreement that we have to do a lot of things to help us move forward in terms of revenue and being cognizant of what we have and how we spend things. So I am very supportive of this, although it's again, not what we anticipated, but we do have to do something immediately, and I would vote for this. Thank you. Councilman Holmes?
Yes, well, I guess distressed by having to deal with this. And I guess one of my concerns is we've got memorandums of understanding with various city employee groups, and how much tinkering with those who are asking for their cooperation is going to help. It remains to be seen, I guess, but I'm hopeful that we're going to get through this and come out with the better management of our labor costs. So I too favor of the resolution, but have concerns about where things might go with the various employees.
Okay.
Just want to echo all my colleagues' sentiments. Especially Sean, mine was appointed in November, we started to sit in late December. And I was told at the time that have a healthy budget. Less than 8 weeks later, I'm being told a very, well, we're all being told a very different story. And so, just kind of coming on board and taking a look back and seeing what happened, how can we address this? And this is just one of a multifaceted approach that the council has to take. Yes, Sean and Gretchen, Andy, to run this work, but it's still our responsibility as a council. And so I'm hoping that we can do all we can to make everyone's job a little easier. And I do appreciate the fact that our union groups have been as good as they could possibly be, knowing that we're cutting folks. No way about it. And so I know as we right size our budget, I'm really hoping that my colleagues will join me in making sure that one of the first things we do is we make it right. That's it.
Thank you. I mean, everyone on the council had very valid ideas and thoughts, and I don't need to echo them all, but I really appreciate everyone's willingness to work together. I think we've worked really well through this. I wanted to thank Sean and all of the staff. I think this has been a team effort in a lot of ways, that everyone's been working together, trying to think through how to make strategic cuts rather than just cutting 10%, but whatever it is off the top, trying to figure out the way that we can move forward as a community and as a city and still provide the right level of service for our citizens. And so I think that's important. I also appreciate the level of transparency and communication that has happened with this. We've been talking about this for a while now. And so there's been lots of time for the staff to understand what's going on. None of this is a surprise, or it shouldn't be, because we've been talking about it for 6 months now. But since the beginning, we've been talking about how labor has gone up and labor costs are really what's driving this deficit. And so we were going to need to do something. I do think that it's beneficial that some of those labor costs have come down because of attrition, and that's always preferable versus letting folks go. But at a certain point, we have to make those decisions. We don't want to be that government agency that's ignoring the problem and letting it get worse. So I think that Sean and the rest of the staff have done a great job of working together to try to get to the best spot we could for last budget, figure out how to fill that gap, and then figure out what the plan is moving forward. And I appreciate all of your hard work. I know that this isn't exactly what you planned on when you got here. So I appreciate you and all of the rest of the staff and how everyone's trying to work together, because we all understand how this impacts people's lives. We impact it in families, and this is not where any of us intended to be either when we made the decisions that were made based on incorrect information. But when things go wrong, you have to make decisions, correct them, and move forward. So that's what we're doing here tonight. And then hopefully we can come out better on the other side. So I appreciate everyone's time and effort and energy and moving us forward and working together on this, because that's the only way we're going to get through this and end up in a positive situation and providing those services that we all want to provide to our residents. So, thank you. Councilman Holmes.
Yes, I'd like to move by resolution to direct the city manager.
Oh, yeah, we need to do public. We did.
We did
public
public
comment before we did our comments. Nobody did.
Labor costs. January.
I'll second that.
I don't know about the jet labor. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes. Sierra Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to the next item, item number 11, review of 100% cost recovery fee schedule for building and planning.
evening, Mayor, good evening, council members, Jonathan Ryan, Community and Economic Development Director. I don't know why, but every time I come into these meetings, discussion, it seems to be always like around one of the days we have our council, we have a budget. So not intentional. Out that way.
Well, they impact each other.
Right.
Yes, they do.
And we do have a lot of economic development. We're in a lot of programming right now because the city stuff doesn't have the background information of the general plan, transportation system plan, and all things to really make headway right now. We're doing our best. So last May, I brought the fee increases to the city council. At that point, they said, you all said, let's see what it looks like in the full cost recovery. Because the budget crisis, we have to really thinking a lot based on consciously about how to do that. This is the same information as in your packet. The only reason I put it into a PowerPoint is because the public may not have sat down and downloaded it and reviewed it themselves. So this way we can kind of go together. So this is the building sides, the building fees. We do building and planning separately. The building fees actually we brought up to mostly full actuarial already. So you'll notice that none of these have any type of highlighting on it. Within this packet, if there's a highlighter marking it, except for one spot where I made an error, then it's a change to the full actuarial amount. I will tell you, we actually did this intentionally. So you'll see 1 through 4 here. Those are essential building permits. Those are the ones that people like the water heater. If you charge so much that it's either buying the water heater or getting your permits, then certain people that are out there that can't afford it are just going to do it. And of course, we're in the business of life, health, and safety. We're trying to encourage people, even though there's still fairly expensive permits to come in and get those types of permits. I mean, roofing, water heaters, HVAC, all those essential things. We did that certain bracket specifically just to try to soften the blow on people and encourage people to come in and get those types of permits. Because again, life, health, safety. And feel free to stop me at any time, ask questions. It's going to be interactive. There's no decision to be made tonight. I'm just seeking direction, so it'll be conversation. The reason it's highlighted in green is different.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of that people coming in for permits for these particular ones, water heater?
Very common.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So you think most people are trying?
Many people are.
Still.
There's been research that says
Everybody.
but
Not everybody.
most of the contractors and
The contractors
And the
know
cost
better.
is for the inspections.
It's for the inspection.
And it went up from 110 to 169.
Well, that's the 100% would be 169.
Right, 100%. And I am sorry, I should have explained that to begin with. The number. I played with the graphics. I played with the space, and it's kind of fun. So the black is what we currently are charging, and the red would be what the fully burdened cost would be for those permits, as estimated through our Nexus study conducted by ClearScope.
Okay, thank you.
This one is simply rounding. So you notice all those numbers around. They're really for ease of use, as far as I can tell. They're only off. They were rounded down, all of them, but they're only rounded down slightly. So the $50,000 to $100,000 permit, which looks like it's $750, was actually the cost they came up with. An actual cost was $761, so it's off by $11. The next one, which shows up as $12,150, is actually 1,260 feet in actuality. So as far as I can tell, ClearSource just rounded these so that they were easier to use, because there's additional permits to go on top of that, and there's a multiplier, so just for math purposes. This is where we get into a lot of the change. So this is now we're on the planning side. As far as I know, it has been the perspective of previous councils to try to keep these costs as low as possible for potentially economic development purposes, so that people come in and get permits. Certain things like the historic design review permits are kind of it's a process of our own. Not everybody has this public hearings process to go through, and so those were intentionally kept low to encourage people to come in and do, especially with historic structures, go through the review process. These are again, the black is what we're currently charging. The red is what collects where it will be. Keep in mind that the cost, the labor cost was calculated by doing this is $177 per hour. And that is based on everybody's time within the department, burden rate, overhead costs, including all those things that go along with the operation. So that 177,000 includes other departments' costs and city hall and all the way down to the HVAC system that keeps us cool in here. So if you multiply it by the red number, you kind of get what the hourly amount is that they calculated for. That's after sitting down with other cities, looking at processes, and as well as sitting down with our staff and discussing the time it takes coming up with those fees.
Is there going to be? We talked about how the new building code is going to reduce the amount of time that people have to take in order to get things through the process.
Form-based code. Right?
Yeah, form-based code. Because they'd be able to do more things over the counter. Is that reflected in this, or we would need to change it again once form-based code was in place and make it more accurate?
No, we use our existing systems and processes to do it. So administrative review or site design, we would probably have to put in a cost for site design here yet. So we would have to remove that one. But many of the processes that are in there remain the same here.
They wouldn't have to go through as many of the properties?
Yeah, well, again, it's a storage structure, it's still through the process. So this will only save those people that don't have classified historic structures, or they're coming in for new structured process, and those design parameters that are specified for this. So yes, it would make it easier and more cost effective for those.
And on the short-term rental.
Yep.
So that is a one-time fee.
Right.
And they all have public hearing.
It's a one-time fee process, so you don't get through the process and have the right to appeal or process there. And if you fail, when you're back and reapply. It may not be the last time you pay that, but hopefully it is.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So yeah, number 6 there. To storage district, other costs. Well, those are amendments. The appeals originally, when before we started this, it was actually $100, because, you know, you don't right, somebody's right to have, you know, due process. Some of these processes, people are appealing because they're not happy with what somebody else is doing. And so I'm gonna just philosophize here that it is the council's intention to keep those down so people could have that appeal right through. But you can see that they have a significant amount of cost to staff. Through those.
Yes.
And like an appeal of a director's decision, so if somebody doesn't agree with a counter call or with one of the decisions that I have made, we used to just say, okay, we'll appeal it directly to the planning commission, that they can come in and file their appeal fee. But that's the actual labor cost to go through that, because it invokes a public hearing process. We have to do the notifications required. It involves multiple layers of staff to go through that, mailing costs, all the costs to actually have the hearings. So it's, and then the final resolutions are all the time. So it does take quite a bit of staff time processes.
How frequent is it that we have appeals?
Well, the last one we had was the church.
Yes.
Hopefully not. Staff does a really good job of meeting with the clients to begin with and trying to get them, you know, all the documents together, make sure that they're on path for success. We're not trying to just throw people out there and, you know, see what happens. So you spend a lot of time with them in advance, trying to help them through the process to make sure that they met criteria as accurately as can be, so that when they get in front of the planning commission or in front of the council, that their proposal looks like.
There were more appeals when we had a higher rate of growth. So during my first tenure on the council, we were approving a lot more developments. There were a lot more appeals just because of the complexity of those projects.
We had a number of subdivisions going down. Usually general plan and zone change and not understanding what, you know, could be.
Thank you.
Permits. So that's not for the store leaders, actually for civil required outside of the historic district. So each are So, this type of scenario where we set up a deposit account for certain and we would receive like this we received we deposit that to city's coffers for we send it down on people, spit it down. So at the end of it, for how many hours spent that costs are additional consultants fees. And so that's been see for sure so to actually works is run over is on process application
Costs are different, all other, like, they really determined based on the project and the, you know, addictions, and so I think it's treat them like be very.
Sometime or the initial that were based for this file and that just general plan depending on what the legislative process will hear or quite a bit, yeah. It's there. Actually, 24 hours
The incision.
We're on it. Why you previous full thing requires action. Run for the photograph. They short one is sort of yeah. This would be under 12. So I think we're 12. That's where we get there's more.
Yes, okay. You know, here that you want to alert you. Think about change. Make it difficult. Try to explain it's really difficult for people. Yeah.
The biggest one is we do have a lot of, especially many ones that have been example ones, although that's a pretty big project, but whether it's Dallas or whether it's somebody up the street on Upper Lane that just wants to replace their awning with something new, this is the same process and the same cost. So
Where is that? Yeah.
Design.
Oh, I see up above. You're right. Amendment.
What number?
21 through 24.
Yeah, so those are the ones that, first came to you, like, the $33 public hearings, that's what we're doing years ago. To try to get people through the process. The big showing this here was how.
So the thing that we should keep in mind with this though is that if we're charging, I don't know, if we're charging one person $1,700 something, that extra $1,300 is money that's coming from the general fund and that the population is paying rather than the person choosing to develop that, but paid by the person who's doing that.
Yeah, to do,
Some incentive.
Yeah, incentives and big changes and.
We had that consultant paid for with a grant. Cogman to talk, improve our downtown and old, which is all in our historic design review committee mission. I think need to change to the ordinance. Gives us more stability, things like other their facade or change the height. That is, it is need to look at from a historic preservation perspective. Hey, minor things, and again, that's sort of that economic development that I preserving historic character to me. Families, team fits, this and building into the world. I think there's, you make some changes and this project having to come to.
But people are going to come back and change. So if you want to do, and then you kind of change, then you get it again. Yeah.
It goes in various processes, resolution, in fact, it could be made. Well, if it's a slight modification of work that it's significant, then you go back here.
And so, yeah, we're adding,
That's don't have to change at all. It's just as a direct staff come back and look. So doing this, we're going to actually be that, I think incredibly we need to charge what the actual cost for those, for the cost being provided. Because part of that is where the reason we are where we are actually as well as in some instances, we work $3 that $2,000 and that we can't have that. So
except sometimes you spend me to make.
I do that, and again, we talked me 5%, 100%. So do your 7% now, and you're the people, and maybe changes the historic review process so that it's not cumbersome of the process now, because it's very cumbersome. Some signage, lighting, colors, things that we might not have.
For me, you kind of there. I think that they should price that they that they're making this go through. I think it'll make less work for that part. It's something that becomes like a space process. You paying for that. It's the fair for so a month like we would point it out previous our old unhappy art right now ourselves. Why don't we figure out how to streamline that, make sure that they're going that is really something to do rather than color. So I think that we get better at coming up as that work for everyone rather than just figuring out how to cover the cost.
Yeah, I'm the one with this question. I think we all, it has to be streamed. We have to correct the ordinance. It has to be streamlined. There has to be an opportunity for people not to have to go to hearing every time they want to change. That's clear. Wait until the people have an opportunity to not have to go to hearing for every single thing. And we don't want to disincentive them from building and making their place look better and nicer. So personally, if we have to take a little bit of a hit for a while, I think we need to. I think doing this drastic change right.
But I think there's some of these because there's
some
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just want to point out that the historic design review, a lot of it the building is registered. A lot more restrictions as opposed to a local designation of the historic building. So that needs to be taken under consideration at the same time.
Yes, definitely.
I agree with, recommendation that if you look at the work instead, look at that, making it easier. It's like you said, if we're making people go through hoops, I mean, that's not going to, whatever the price is, whether we make it to what they should be paying or what they're paying now, they're still not doing it. Because the process itself is actually outweighing any of the costs. So if we did the process first and make that easier, more efficient has to be raised, and it does have to be raised. You know, the talk of the same was we should take a hit for a while. We've been taking a hit for decades. This is kind of why I think as a staff person, I'm just working on a field on a monthly basis for the county. I think right now, by the time the email hits my desk, and there's thousands of dollars that we're spending being done here. I think if we can make it easier, and I know that just as a fellow staff member, not being soft listed as an entity, we know that we are always doing work so that when you get to a deal, the actual hearing on either side to resolve this. From that point, to the point that there's been maybe a disagreement or a different opinion, I can tell you that typically staff wants to get the resolve the ordinance first. But I'm really glad that Donovan that you came back with, because I know that was a concern that Alice and I had, was the fact that the list it just didn't make sense. And it wasn't anything on you. It was just a matter of this is what we're charging people and not that rate, and people are really happy with that. But if it's on the tax of fellow citizens, I mean, we're already going to be acting with our fees as well. That's going to be.
I'm just gonna, we should be clear, and I do have a question for our senator as well. I mean, we're just talking about the design review permit historic district. That's just a small, section. I think that the rest of these, it does make in some instances, I think that certainly on historic designation, we're going from $0 to $4,200. I would be more percent with a path towards increasing to at least 70 to 88, because we don't do it very often, but I wouldn't go maybe even again, I don't want to subsidize, but I'm also trying to be, or even 75%. I'm flip-flopping all over the place. What I'm thinking though is really, but some of these I think are appropriate at 100%. We can kind of look at where we can stagnation. It seemed like they're relevant. The general plan amendment and whether or not, that looks like the,
it looks like it's on page 88 right now. The general plan amendment and US family tax actual cost. And then if we tie it back to the development agreement on page 87, that's actual cost. And so typically if we're doing planning stuff, we're doing a general plan, that's a legislative action. And we're sitting something out of that. So it doesn't really make the general plan and then the cost.
We don't have the money to do it. Our change of zone. And so, that.
Yes, but some of them don't always do the vanity check and have it be a cost rather than having to. For me, I don't feel like any of these. I think it's staff needs to have high numbers on for a long time, like a historic thing that are the actual cost on those covering those. You gave us what we check the cost recovery that we think any of our developers who would do things
getting from
soon. But I also combining that with the ordinances, looking at the ones that we have high cost because our processes are not great. So I think that
be careful though, because this the way we can maybe take out 1 or 2 steps that would then do, because we should try to reduce the amount of work that's necessary. But we do need providing. Just a retailing system, but sales are not. Maybe we pick a day of a year.
Do the same for otherwise.
And there might be as well. I'm sure and
we can align that with the work. Are there any more comments on this item?
We'll take another shot.
We'll have work to do.
Gotta get my good side. I was gonna talk about the airport, but mayor did that for me, so that was I didn't have to do that. I will say that this was my first time ever in my career that I had an MC event, so hopefully I didn't stick my foot in my mouth too much. So the elevator contractor is now working at School Park Reserve. Once we get the elevator put in and everything is scheduled and official really good for that multi-purpose
only for this slash.
Already, just,
It's
and
a
the
video camera
cameras.
Up there too.
the cameras.
State of the city, so, I don't know if you're gonna talk about that, but you still might.
Okay.
The state of the city to continue to plan for that state of the city event scheduled for November 21st. We sent out a save the date flyer for that to be posted to the website. And this is all in the back of the, by the way, and I posted to the website again. We have our interim chief of police, he actually started today, so that's good.
Oh, yeah.
So the process, recruitment process is started, or in the process of recruiting for a permanent chief, but we have Chief Deck here for that ongoing current. And Todd was gonna take a brother talk to Ken, because they leave a little bit early, so I take it this week.
All right. I went last week, it's nice.
Last one, was the, so on the transit side, October 1st marked the complete transition from the previous app for the on-demand to the new app. We adopted that full-time on-demand transit system out of necessity during the pandemic, and also as well, continuing to grow. Current on-demand system averages about 90 passengers per day, which is nearly 5 times the volume of the previous system, and it continues to grow. So, it's done a great job with that. So, that's all that I have. I can answer your question today.
That comment on the Go app, I actually used it that day and it went live and it was different, but I mean, it wasn't any less, it was a little bit accurate. And I love the fact that it actually allows the rider to provide instant feedback on my stuff. And it's pretty simple, like, I think it's a green thumb.
Thumbs up.
I remember on that first day, there was a few people on a chit chat. I chimed in, look for yours, so just practice a little grace. Yes,
Oh.
yes. No, I think it's a great transition, and I love the fact that it'll be another transition. It's awesome. It's a great school. Good.
Like to use it.
Thank you. On to council committee reports. So are there any reports?
As well to Long Beach this week for the annual League of Cities. I am the voting delegate, so I'll be taking those actions, and then I also sit on the board of directors, so I'll be doing the board of director work as well. And then Pioneer, just to let you know, we are looking at expanding our jurisdiction, bringing in some additional counties and cities, probably around 2027. So that'll be coming to the board. The board's in the process of discussing that. Good news.
Great. Are there any?
So in case something happens to me, we're in good